Hey, this is Pipeline Audio. I am going to do a quick overview on some of the changes in multiband gate. I think we're at 3.0.7 right now, and things work pretty much the same way as they used to, but they might look a little bit different. You might see things in a different place than they were before. So let me just go over what we got going now. So let me find a little section of song that should work well. I think. Let's see. Let me take a look here. Okay, so this section should work okay. All right, so we got three different kind of display overviews here. So there's detection, spectrum, and key. Let me show you what these are. So the detection window is going to show you like your waveform, what's coming in, where the threshold control is at. The spectrum is going to show you how the yeah, V3 is out, Musictron. If you don't have it, email me. If you didn't get an update, email me at pipelineaudio@aixdsp.com or any of the support links or whatever, and I'll make sure you have it. And I'll make sure you got that. Sorry about that if you didn't get an email. Should have automatically sent, but who knows? We just watched the whole world go down on this CrowdStrike thing, right? So you never know. Anyway, the spectrum control is going to show you what the frequency content is coming in, so you can divide up the bands right here. So this is the high pass and sorry, this is the crossover between lows and low mids, or lows and mids, and this is the crossover between mids and highs. And just slide them around. You can enter them in here. You can also change the volume between the bands. I know a lot of people just mute the mid band. I do it too, but you could just turn it down a little bit if you wanted. The other thing that's on here is this is using the 24 dB crossovers. You can switch this to the 6 dB crossovers. You can actually do this on any of the windows, but just be aware that using the 6 dB crossovers is not going to be as sharp a distinction, anywhere near as sharp, but it's going to be a lot less phasey. So be aware that that's there. Again, because so many of us either turn the mids way down or just mute them completely. I usually just leave it at the 24 dB. I don't really care what the phase change is going to be. But if the phase is an issue for you, there's a single pole filter available right there, the 6 dB crossover. Okay. See what else? The key is going to tell you what is the detector actually listening to. So let's play this kick drum. I can tell it just to listen to this area here. And right now it's not doing anything because you can see the slopes are off. Now if I use your mouse wheel here, you can make a steeper, narrower slope. If you want, you can just type in the frequencies yourself. Now be aware that, I don't know, I don't think people talk about this as much as they need to. If you've ever noticed, if you do have a frequency conscious gate like this, or a key filter for a compressor or whatever, you might notice that it takes a long time before low frequency information can really open and close the gate correctly. It's not a delay. It's just, it needs more, the waveform. I mean, if you look, the waveforms are, you see this, much longer than something like this. And so it may take a lot longer to open or close that gate. And in that case, you might need to use, if it's not live, if you are in mix mode and you can have whatever plug-in delay compensation. Remember, this thing does 0 latency as long as you tell it to. You might need a lot of look ahead, and I mean 10 to 15, maybe even 20 milliseconds of look ahead if you're going to just key on the really low frequency. So keep that in mind, that it may not respond the way you think it should. You might need to dial in some look ahead. And again, as long as your DAW is sensible, the plug-in delay compensation will work just fine. Go back to the detection window. And something that's definitely new here is, before we used to have all the controls on one screen. Now you just click to mess with the highs, click to mess with the mids, click to mess with the lows, right here in this little box. And that'll pick which one you're actually changing here. Now, you see this link button here. This is something you guys all asked for, so here it is. This link button lets you set a separate threshold per band. Okay. Now we've done something similar in dynamic EQ and multiband compressor, and it kind of blurs the differences between these plugins, but I still see them as different plugins enough that there are certain things that I could do to blur them even more that I don't want to, because I want to make sure that his plugins are as targeted as they can be. But we can always have that discussion if you want. Anyway, so if we unlink these, so here's the master threshold right now because they're linked. So if I take the highs out, change the high one to way up here, unlink the mids, change it down here, unlink the lows, and put it way down here. Now I have 3 different thresholds. Okay, so that can be a little tricky, but you might want this. There's a couple reasons for this. You might want that attack, for instance, just again, cymbals and toms, right? That's probably why you're here, honestly, is cymbals and toms, right? So you could set that threshold pretty high for the high band, and that means that it's going to take a lot more to keep that gate open if you set that a lot higher than the other bands. I'll put a bell back together for now. And let's see what is different in here. So spectrum, key detection. Take a look here. Now, this probably isn't going to make any difference to you in most cases. You can just leave them as they're sitting. This kind of exponential shape right here. But again, cymbals and toms. For the high band, I often want this, especially the release shape, to change more something like this. Hold it open as long as I want, and then just kind of shut it right away. This is different than the hold time or the release time. This is the actual curve of how it closes. And that closing is happening after it goes back under the threshold, which again is why you might want to unlink that high control. If there's anything really different, so each channel's got a polarity flip if you need. And depending on how wild you're doing this, especially with the 24 dB crossover, you might want to do that. Let's just take a look at this kick drum real quick. Let's say I unlink this high. Here's the thing. If I'm triggering, let's say I'm triggering off this really low frequency right here. Oh, you know what? Okay. We should have a readout right here that tells you the frequency. And we actually have that in some of the plugins. I'm going to ask Dave to make this an optional tooltip so that when you move your mouse around, you can actually see the frequency here. I'll worry about that later. So let me show you this. So with no look ahead, actually missing a chunk of the beginning of the drum. Hear that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some look ahead. This is that low frequency thing I'm talking about. Start with 15. I think I pretty much got everything back. I mean, the danger of setting this too far, right, is that you might end up with some junk before it opens. But I don't think it's really going to matter that much about how I would like this. And in this case, so you're looking at the shape of the highs, for instance. So like, let's look at this release shape. I'm going to change this. Do you see how that works? You're really just changing the curve of how it's going. Now you see how wide this is, right? That's a function of when does it cross that threshold. So if we bring it up, might want to add a little bit of hold for that. Let me take that out. Watch what changes when I bring the threshold down. Okay, see how wide that gets? So remember, this matters to when it returns underneath the threshold as well. So change this release shape. Do something crazy. I'm gonna make the hold. I'll make the hold and the release both 0. Okay. Now watch, I'll make a really wide release. So you see, when you don't give it anything to work with, this shape's not really going to do much. But once you get into just the tiniest bit, then it starts mattering. The reason this really got added is people were making a really short hold control and a really short release time, and it wasn't acting the way they wanted. With this, you could actually have a decent hold to make sure you got your whole stick in there, and a somewhat long release. And still get the response you're looking for. Okay. I think that's about it. What else is new here? Oh, okay. So I guess I should have said this. So what the detector's looking at here, are you looking at the key filter, or are you looking at the band? So you could have a per band frequency detection as well. That's, might do a whole video on that because it starts getting stuff kind of crazy, but because this is what we're doing with multi-band compressor and dynamic EQ, kind of wanted to have it on here as well. But that just means, what's the detector listening to? Is it listening to the key input, which is whatever you filtered in here, or is it listening to the band itself, which is whatever you set in the crossovers here? So the highs would just be listening here, the mids would just be listening here. In that case, I mean, it's almost like you got 3 different gates there, and that was the problem this plugin was meant to solve, because we used to have like 3, especially with Reaper's parameter modulation, you could kind of link them together, but I wanted one plugin to handle it. So when I change the threshold on one, it's all together. Anyway, I'm probably just rambling at this point, but that's that is how things are going. Musictron, if you didn't get your update email, email me at pipelineaudio@aixdsp.com, or go to the support pages on our website and take care of it. And